Okay, let's talk about the fifth question of the six critical questions, which is what's most important right now? This is when a team needs to understand what is our focus, what we call the rallying cry or the thematic goal that the entire team and ultimately the company is going to rally around to make sure we're focused on the single most important thing. Okay, I want to take you through this model. It's pretty detailed, but I'm going to do my very best. So the first thing we have to do as a team is say, if we only accomplish one thing and we get to pick the time period anywhere from 3 to 9 months, anything longer than 9 months is usually so far out that people will put it off. But in the next 3 to 9 months, you pick the period. What is the one thing that we have to accomplish if we want to be able to say we succeeded? Okay, so we call this I like the rallying cry because it makes sense, but it's the goal, but it's a theme, not a metric. Okay, so what's the one thing? Well, I like to use the example of there was a tire company back in the 1980s that its tires were blowing up and cars were flipping over and people were getting hurt and injured and sometimes killed. And nobody was quite sure what it was, but the tire company that made those tires was really being blamed for this. And it seemed like they had some big defects in their tires. Well, imagine that you were the executive team of that tire company. And I got together with you and I said, what's the one thing that you guys have to do in the next 9 months? And they would say, well, we have to fix the tires, right? So fix the tires. Well, the question I would say is, well, if 9 months from now, all you've done is fix the tires, is that enough? And they're going to say no. In fact, because if people don't know we've fixed them, that's a problem. In fact, our real thematic goal is we have to reestablish credibility as a company in the market. So sometimes our first attempt to define the thematic goal or the rallying cry is actually one of the things that we need to do in service of that. But in their case, it was reestablish credibility. So imagine that you're the executive team of this company. You say, 9 months from now, we need people to see us as a good, credible, reliable company again. Okay, so check, we've got the thematic goal, right? But that's not enough. What we need to do now is say, in order to accomplish that in the next 9 months, what would be the 3, 4, 5, or 6 things, whatever it is, that we would actually have to do in order to make that a reality? And that's where this gets into we call these your defining objectives. By definition, if we do these things, we will reestablish credibility. Well, if you were that company, and this is just made up, but I think it maps on to how a company would go about this. But here might be 5 things you would do. 1, you said what we have to do is fix the tires. Okay? Yes, that's necessary. It's not enough. Okay? The next thing we have to do is we have to do great PR. We have to tell the world that we fixed the tires and say we're not the same company as that we were. We understand what went wrong, and now we are different. That's great. What's another thing we have to do? We have to go out beyond PR and sit down with our customers and change our relationship with them and make sure that they know that they were put in a difficult position. And we have to work with our major customers. They probably had 8 major distributors and make things right with them. Okay, what else? Well, we got to make sure that our employees know what we've done because they're feeling terrible about what's going on. And when they tell people that they work for this company, they feel really guilty. We need to really rebuild their confidence and their credibility as well. And finally, we have to deal with the legal issues. We have to settle the lawsuits that could crush us. Okay, imagine that you're the executive team of this company and you said, if we do this, if we do that, if we do this, if we do this, if we do this, well, yes, that would mean we've reestablished credibility. This seems remarkably simple, doesn't it? The problem is I've worked with so many organizations that are so in touch with the nuances and the details of their business, but they haven't broken it down in something like this that every leader and every employee can understand. And the beauty of this is that you have your meetings, especially those when we talk about a weekly tactical meeting, the first thing you should do is you should start by saying, if this is what's most important, then let's take a look at how we're doing in each of these areas. Are they green? We're doing really well. We're ahead of schedule. Are we yellow? It's a little bit of risk. Or are we red? We're way behind schedule. That helps you to know what you need to talk about at that meeting. But now there's one other category down here. It's called, so this is your defining objectives. This is your thematic goal. But down here we have this thing called standard operating objectives. These are the things we have to do just to stay in business. And it's not just for the next 3 to 9 months, it's all the time. It was true 2 years ago, it will be true 2 years from now. And they are things like revenue and expenses and customer satisfaction and employee morale and safety and quality and the work environment and, partner relations and all the other things that keep us in business that will always be true. So this one-page sheet is really a quick glance at what's going on in the organization and how we're doing. And when a company starts, when a leadership team starts by having their meetings around this, and they're deciding which of these things do we really need to focus on during this conversation, everything gets clearer. What happens when we don't have this is we go to our meetings and we come up with an agenda based on some random thought somebody had and something somebody else wants to do. And we're sitting in our meetings and we're like, why are we talking about this? This allows us to say, if somebody comes up with an idea to talk about at a meeting and it doesn't fall anywhere here, and it's certainly not red or yellow, perhaps we should take that off the agenda and avoid wasting time. So this is the thematic goal or the rallying cry. These are the defining objectives that make this possible. And these are the things that we have to do just to stay in business. And that is what allows a company to stay clear and focused.